This is December the 13th, 1989. My son Eric asked me to make this tape so so that some of my children, grandchildren that I may never see, I'll get to talk to them. I was born July the 10th, 1919 in Evansville, Indiana, Vanderburgh County. My parents were William F. Winnecke Sr. I'm William F. Winnecke Jr. My father was born in Canton, Indiana, and his parents came from Germany. My mother her maiden name was Amelia Christine Hufnagel. She was born in Evansville, Indiana, and she was raised in Evansville. That's where my dad met her. They got married. I got one brother, or had one brother, Elvis Ernst Winnecke. I couldn't read that. I couldn't read.
Just relax over yourself.
Yeah. I had one brother, Elvis Ernst Winnecke. He was born 1910, and he died this year, October the 9th, 1989. He had two children, Beverly Joan Berg and Elvis Ray Winnecke. My mother was one of two children born to George Hufnagel. He also came from Germany. My grandmother's maiden name was Ellenberger, Anna Elizabeth Ellenberger. She was born in Germany. They both died. My grandmother died before I was born. My grandfather died somewhere in 1960, in the 60s. All four of my grandparents came from Germany. My father worked in Mead Johnson Company in the laboratory. He retired from Mead Johnson's, and he died in 1962.
How old was he?
He was 73 years old when he died. My mother died when I was 16 years old. My mother was 54 years old when she died. My first childhood memory would go back to my childhood days when I was in school, Centennial Grade School. I went to Centennial Grade School, then I went to Wrights High School, then I went to Mechanic Arts Institute. And after my mother died, I decided to leave Evansville and move around. I went to various cities, worked, and I ended up in Cincinnati working, and I decided to go to Evansville to see my dad. I started at Evansville during the war. It was 1942.
How old were you when your mother died?
I think I was 16, I'm not sure. Nevertheless, no, I was older than that because I left home after my mother died. I must have been around 20 years old. And I moved around all over the country and worked in different places. And I was working in Cincinnati, and I left there to go to Evansville to see my dad. And I stopped at Louisville to see a friend from Evansville that moved to Louisville.
About how old were you?
I was 23 years old then. And I decided to stay in Louisville. I went to work in Louisville, and I met Floy, my wife. Her name's Elsie Floy. Her name was Elsie Floy Galloway. And I got in Louisville on July the 4th, 1942, and we got married October the 22nd, 1942.
Tell us about when you first saw Mom and you first met her.
Well, I first met Floyd when I worked at the Mingo Body Company, and we had some dates and we got to know each other quite well. And I liked her, and I think she probably liked me. So
When you first saw her and talked to her, what did you say to her?
well, first thing I asked her if her name was Elsie Galloway. She informed me her name was Floyd Galloway. However, Elsie was her first name, and she was a little upset for being called Elsie. So after that, I called her Floyd, and we got married, and we lived in Louisville. I worked for Tube Turns in Louisville for about a year after we were married, and we decided to move to California. In the meantime, before that, our first daughter was born. It was Christine Carol Winnecke, and she was born in October of 1943, and she was killed in an automobile accident when after she graduated from high school. I think that was in about 1961.
What do you remember about Carol? Some of your memories about her?
Well, I remember Carol very vividly. Was very petite, graceful, lovable, and she made us happy.
Can you remember any experience that you had with her where you had a good time and she had a good time?
Well, we had so many good times together, and we enjoyed many things together. She always seemed to be very happy. And getting back to when I quit Tube Turns, we moved to California. We lived out there a year. We had a daughter born out there, and she lived 3 days. This is kind of a hard thing to talk about because it upset Floyd very much. And after that, she was upset. We decided to come back to Louisville. So we came back to Louisville. I went to work for Colgate Palmolive Company in Jeffersonville, where I worked for 38 years, and I retired in February 1982 after 38 years at Colgate. Wasn't too many eventful things happened. My first childhood, my young childhood, I tried to compete in some in high school or in grade school. I had many happy events, memories of my youth in grade school. Good friends that we chummed with, and
Who was your best friend?
my best friend when I was in grade school was probably Robert Wallace. We called him Squidge. And another one that I'd say was just as good a friend with Cotton Collins. We three grew up together in the same neighborhood, went to grade school together, and I had a lot of friends. It was young, but none particularly to speak of.
What about in high school?
In high school, I guess my closest friend was Raymond Dixon. We come out of grade school together and went to high school together till I was in an automobile accident, crushed my hip. I was in a plaster Paris cast for 13 months. And it came out, I left my hip stiff, so I didn't qualify to go in the the Army when World War II came along. I guess my favorite subject in school was history. My least favorite was English, which is poor, I know. I guess,
You have a teacher that you remember in high school?
yeah, my teacher in history was Mr. Frudenberger. And he made it interesting because he always kept the history in a story form, kept it up to date, kept things rolling along pretty good. Not a lot of dates to remember. I guess the best advice my parents ever gave me was for me to try to stay out of trouble and save money, which I never could do. I never could save money. It was too much fun spending it. My lifetime occupation, I have to say, I was a machinist. That's all I ever worked at all my life. Would have liked to try something else, but never did seem to be able to get out of doing it.
Did you do any other occupations?
No, I never did work in any other occupation at all.
Did you ever teach high school? Or?
Well, I was a teacher at Jeff High for 2 years for night training, for night school for some of the people.
What did you teach there?
I taught machine shop practice and shop math, which I didn't really like to do very well, so I gave that up.
What about, did you ever go into any business?
Yeah, during the war, Floy and I decided we would go in the dry cleaning business. We opened a dry cleaners in Jeffersonville. It was the fashion cleaners and dyers. It was a pretty successful business, but I was trying to work at Colgate's and help run the business, and Floy had to more or less run the business, and help was kind of hard to get during the war. We had problems with the delivery trucks here and there at various times, and it was hard to get people to really good employees.
How many children did you have then?
And at that time, we had one child, which was Carol, but Laverne, my wife was pregnant with Laverne, and she could no longer oversee the cleaners, so we sold the cleaners and got out of the business. And from there, we just more or less, we lived in various places. We lived in, I don't know how many places. I'm afraid to even try to say how many different places we moved to.
What was your favorite place that you lived in?
Well, I'd say my favorite place that I lived in was in Henryville. We bought a little farm up in Henryville, remodeled the old farmhouse, and we both liked it real well. But I had to have the cataracts removed from my eyes, and I had to drive from Henryville to Jeffersonville to work every day. And sometimes it got pretty hard for me to drive with when I had the cataracts removed. So we sold that, and we moved to Clarksville, where we live right now. I liked my job pretty well, but there was some good points and some disappointing times in the job.
What was the highlight of your job at Colgate's?
Well, I think the highlight of my job, this is going to sound cute, but I was a union representative, and I did it the best I could, and I think I did a good job. And I've always been a union man. I suppose I always will be. I believe firmly in a union, and I represented the union for years up to right before I retired, and I resigned my job because I couldn't handle it any longer. Stop it. Grandchildren, I'm very proud of them. I had 14 grandchildren. The oldest one was killed in an automobile accident, just like my oldest daughter was killed in an automobile accident.
What was his name?
His name was Terry Lee Phillips.
How old was he?
He was 20 years old, I think, when he got killed.
What do you remember about Terry Lee?
The thing I probably remember most, his experiences, when we lived up on the farm in Henryville, me and him went over to Charlestown, and I bought him a BB gun, and I sure got in trouble with that. When his mother and Floyd came home, why, boy, I really caught it, because they didn't think he should have a BB gun, but I thought he should, so it worked out all right. He just broke a few windows. Well, the only advice I can give to the grandchildren, I hope they do a little better with their lives than I did. There are some disappointments in my life I don't want to talk about. And the advice I could give would be just save your money. If you can save 20% of what you make and put it in the bank when you get retired, you'll have some money to spend.
What about education?
Education is one of the foremost things that I think that I can say that is really necessary. I guess it's more important than trying to save money, because if you get an education, you'll learn how to save money, how to make money, and how to spend it. I guess the thing I'm most proud of is my family. I had a nice, great family. We had ups and downs, but there's been a lot of high points, a lot of low points, but overall, it's been a good life. If I could change something, I believe I would have spent more time with my family. One thing we would have done, we went to church together more, and we would have ate all of our meals together. It seemed like when kids was growing up, everything was moving around so fast. One would eat one time, another would want to eat another, so we just didn't seem to have too many meals together. And it was something that I think that we should have done. That's something I'd change.
What about religion? Do you have any advice on religion?
Yes, I do. I think that it's important. Religious is one of the major parts of your life. It can make you happy. It can make you feel sad for the things that you do wrong. The first thing you should do is seek God. Seek Him to your very utmost till you find Him. And you'll know when you find Him, of course, you'll be saved. And that you need. That's the paramount thing in your life. From the day you reach accountability to the time you die, always seek God. And always try to be with God and be on the side of God. Because He loves you more than anybody. Anybody in this world would love you. God loves you. I'm very happy with my religion. I'm happy that I found out I was saved. And that was probably the happiest moment of my life. No doubt it was the happiest moment of my life.
Can you tell how you felt then?
I felt happy. I felt sorry for the things I did in the past. And I tried to change things in the future, but I still made mistakes after I was saved, but I know God forgave me. But there's no other feeling in your life, or in my life, it was like the time that I was saved.
What about your politics?
Well, my politics is about the same. The major part of my life, I was always a Republican. Always voted the Republican ticket. But I have seen some mistakes in both parties. I was unhappy with both parties, but I consider myself a Republican. I guess my first vote was against Franklin D. Roosevelt. I voted for Wendell Willkie. That was my first presidential vote. And my last presidential vote was for President George Bush.
What president in your lifetime do you think was the best?
Well, in my lifetime, I guess the one that was probably I can't say who would be the best president. I really can't. Uh, I, I was unhappy with them, and I was happy with them at times. A lot of things that they did I thought was right. A lot of things they did was wrong, but I wasn't the one to decide that.
Does anyone in particular stick out in your mind as far as agreeing with what he went along with?
Well, I mean, even though I was a Republican, I always felt that Roosevelt did favor the working people to a degree, a great degree. I mean, he was the one that passed the labor laws, had the labor laws passed. He favored them. The things that I was opposed to, that he forced us off of the gold standard in 1933, which was bad for the country, and it always has. I don't think I'll ever live to see the day that the country will be back on the gold standard. I guess the most important event in the history in my lifetime was when the day that World War II was declared. It was really on Monday, after Sunday, December the 7th, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, and most of my friends that were physically capable all went down and enlisted. That pretty much left me home by myself. It was all raw and everything. And
did you want to go?
I would have liked to have gone, but I knew I didn't qualify. I didn't pass the draft examination. I did go and get examined, but I was turned down. I was put in 4F. I guess the best movie I ever seen would be Gone with the Wind. I think that came out in 1938 or 39 probably. I really enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It's probably the best movie I ever seen. I guess the best book I ever read was 7 League Boots by Richard Halliburton. It's a history, but it's in a story form, and I never will forget that book because it was not only interesting, but it was very informative.
What was the name of that again?
It was 7 League Boots by Richard Halliburton. And I always remember that. I read many books when I was in the cast for 13 months. I read library books one after another, but I think the outstanding book that I read would have to be 7 League Boots by Richard Halliburton. I'd like to give you some advice on raising children, but I know that each generation is different. I don't know exactly how to tell you to do what would be right for the child. I think you'll do your best when you have your children, and you'll love them, and I don't think you'll tell them anything wrong. You'll tell them what you think is right, and I can't tell them what's right for them. Marriage, love, is an important part of your life too. When every time comes time for you to be married, I'm sure you'll make a wise choice, and you'll love your wife, and respect her, and try your best to make her happy, and your children too. And you look for a husband or a wife. Find somebody that's compatible, that you love, loves you, and you want to spend the rest of your life with. I ain't going to tell you how to select an occupation because I selected mine, and I'm sure that you'll select yours, and I'm sure you'll make a wise choice. When you find a girl you think you like well enough to date, always respect her. Don't take her any place that you wouldn't want to be seen by your parents. And treat her like your sister, or treat her like you treat him like your brother. Have fun where you find it, but always be sure you find it in the right place, because there's a lot of wrong places, but it's not fun. You may think it's fun, but it's not. You'll make mistakes, but everybody will. I did. but I can't correct them. But when you make a mistake that you can't go back and correct, try not to make the mistake again. Because the first mistake, you can be forgiven for it. The second mistake, you can't forgive yourself for it. Because there's no reason to make the same mistake twice if you know it's a mistake. If you want to take risks, that's all a part of life. But always be careful where you take the risk and who you take the risk with. Don't bet on anybody that you don't respect, that you don't trust, and you don't feel that deserves your respect and friendship. I hope that you don't decide to gamble. If you do, that's a mistake. And I think you'll find that out after your money's gone.
What about alcohol?
Alcohol is no good for nobody. Believe me, I tried it more than once, many times. And I've got nothing but unhappiness, sadness, regret. As a matter of fact, a big part of my mistakes in life was made under the influence of alcohol. I can't go back and correct those. I can't tell you that you won't drink it, but I hope you never use alcohol or drugs in no shape or form, because it'll bring you nothing but unhappiness. And I know that as you go through life, you're going to be strive to be happy, and I hope happiness comes to all of you. I guess the best decision I ever made is when I married my wife. It seemed like my life kind of settled down. I made a lot of mistakes afterwards, but that's the best decision I ever made. Right now I'm happy when I'm with my family, the holidays, or any time I can spend with my family. That's a happy part of my life, big part of my life, biggest part. Other than when we go to church and we're together, see them in church, I like to see them all there. And I'm sure when you grow up, get older, you'll feel the same way after you've been saved and made right with God.
Are there any pastors that stick out in your mind that were?
Yeah, my favorite pastor, I guess, was and always will be Brother C.D. Russell. He was a pastor at Lions Missionary Baptist Church. That's where I was saved, and he'll always be my favorite pastor.
What do you remember about him?
Well, he was always able to counsel, a friend.
Anything in particular that he told you that sticks in your mind?
Well, the main thing he told me was to preach to God is love and love God. And I think that always will be in my mind. If I could had a chance to, before it's all over, I'm going to see some of my friends that I used to know. I'm 70 years old, and I guess I'm getting pretty close to evening in my life. But I would like to see some of my old friends that I raised with.
What do you remember about Laverne?
Vern was the next to oldest child, and she after Carol died, I left Laverne to be the oldest daughter, and I love her very much, but no more than any of the other ones. I love all my children. I know maybe sometimes they think I didn't show it, but the love was there. The next came the twins, Judy and Joy. They brought a lot of happiness too. Then Pamela Gale. She's the youngest baby girl. And Eric was the only boy I ever had. And he had the occasion to make me very proud of him. And I hope he'll continue to make me proud. I know he's made his mother proud. He's seeked the Lord and he's found the Lord, I'm sure, which has brought happiness to him.
Is there any experience in particular that you can remember growing up with Laverne?
No, nothing that stand out would be.
What about a family experience or vacation that you enjoy?
Well, I guess one of the longest vacations, the time that all the children, with the exception of Carol, went to California and see my brother. We spent time with him, and we had a very eventful trip. I guess that about winds up what I've got to say. And I wasn't very well prepared to do this, but I did the best I could, which is probably a lot better than I did with the rest of my life. I mean, I could have done a lot better. So that's about all I've got to say.